Thank you all for joining me once again for another Full Throttle Thursday. Appreciate you being with me. Lots of interesting things happened today. President Trump was on another executive order signing spree, basically. And a couple things that he did was to modify some of the tariffs that are supposed to take place April 2nd to kind of help out some of the farmers and agriculture sectors of the economy and things like that. But he did say that everything is going to be full force on April 2nd. So that was one thing that he did. But the other thing that he did, which really isn't getting any fanfare, but should, is he just signed an executive order. Well, first, before we even get into that, he went after Perkins Coie. Okay, Perkins Coie was the law firm that worked with Hillary Clinton, that worked with Fusion GPS to set up President Trump with Christopher Steele. We don't need to rehash all that, but that was the main law firm. So like a couple of weeks ago, he did the Covington law firm, which gave $140,000 of pro bono work to Jack Smith and his prosecutors. So he stripped them and revoked their security clearances a couple of weeks ago. Today, he did the exact same thing to Perkins Coie, including cheeseburger thighs. What's his name? Mark Elias, that real scumbag. So I actually went out on X and I said, great start, President Trump, but also prosecute these people and go after the 65 Project. The 65 Project are a bunch of leftist lawyers. They're the most horrific lawyers in the country. And they went after anyone that defended President Trump. Anyone, didn't matter who they were. And they filed complaints and ethic complaints against the Bar Association. Meanwhile, they basically run the Bar Association. So that it's so baked in, basically, right? And so that happened today, and I told them to go after them, and I gave them all the different things that they could go after them with. No one is usually brave enough to go on X and put at 65 Project and at Mark Alliance and at, all these different people. And then, of course, I did at Pam Bondi and at Kash Patel and at Bongino and at Harmeen Dillon and at Ed Martin. So I went out there and kind of like went after them, so to speak. But the executive order that he signed, not only did he revoke every single lawyer of Perkins Coie having their security clearances, they're gone. But even better, he signed an executive order that basically should deter future rogue judges that come after President Trump as he's trying to get these spending cuts done and trying to get these, federal workers eliminated and all that. And then they're trying to bring them back. So what he did is he signed an executive order that said, if you're a judge and you go against my constitutional rights and we go to court, you're going to pay all of the restitution, all of the legal fees. And it's in the millions and millions of dollars. And so he just signed an executive order saying that any judge from any circuit, if you file an injunction against me and we go to court and I win, which I will, you're going to be responsible for it. So I think that's awesome. I really do, because I think it's going to take the lower court judges, especially, and it's going to make them kind of not want to mess around with President Trump. So you couple that with the fact that this Rescission Act from 1974 can cut $500 billion, a half a trillion dollars, and we don't have to wait. That's the thing. We don't have to wait. So some good things are happening. The judge, what was his name? What's his name? The one judge, what's his name? I'll give you his name real quick because it was over here somewhere. He just pulled out of his lawsuit. Hampton Dellinger backs down, ends legal battle against President Trump after the DC Circuit Court allows the firings to proceed. So the higher courts are coming through for President Trump. So the thing that I want to start with, and we'll start with you, Gail, first, is lots of these judges are trying to stop President Trump. But again, he's maneuvering in different ways. Not only does he have precedent from Joe Biden doing this to Sean Spicer and others, but these judges are now getting scared. So if we can get this Rescission Act done, and again, that has to come from the White House, we really can cut a lot of this wasteful spending. So what are your thoughts? Do you think these judges are going to be able to stop him, or do you think that this administration is going to outmaneuver them to get these cuts done?
Well, I think he will outmaneuver them. I'm concerned about the Supreme Court, what they did. They went against him on that. But the thing is, Joe Biden never even listened to them, so why does he have to, So I
Exactly.
so I think that I guess he's trying to get something through the legislature. That might be a good thing to make him permanent anyway. But
Yeah, we've got to be able to codify a lot of these things.
I
The,
think he'll
Sup-
get what he wants.
the Supreme Court decision that you're referring to wasn't necessarily a complete loss for him. It was more of a wait and see. In other words, their ruling basically said that, we'll revisit this down the line. So it wasn't a complete waste. But again, the Supreme Court, you have to understand, Amy Coney Barrett hates President Trump. Okay,
Yeah.
that's a fact. And it's really sad because she has a lifetime appointment to the Supreme Court because of him.
Yeah.
And you can see the look on her face when she shook his hand at the State of the Union address. She barely even acknowledged him. I don't know what it is. I don't know what happened or why, but she literally hates and detests him. So what does that mean? That means that sadly, we probably have an anti-Trump leftist on the Supreme Court, and we really can't count on her future vote. At
Well,
least that's what I see.
her and Roberts, Roberts through Obama, and her, I think, through the Clintons, got her kids out of Haiti. And I think there's something going on there too.
I would say at this point, Roberts is more friendlier to President Trump than Amy Coney Barrett. And the
Yeah.
thing is that he could have been smart and he could have picked the Florida, what she was I think she was the Speaker of the House in Florida or a judge in Florida. She was a Cuban American. She was an American citizen. She was Cuban, and she was up instead of Amy Coney Barrett. It was between those two, and he should have picked the Cuban woman in Florida instead. Maybe she was like the University of Miami, constitutional scholar, or some kind of, I don't remember what she was, lower court judge, whatever.
I think some rhinos got to him and gave him bad information. I think so.
Yeah, I don't know why he chose her. What a disaster she is and has been. Okay, Carl. So let's go to you next. So Carl, basically what we have here is we have the DOGE team wanting these cuts. They now have a new tool, the 1974 Budget Rescission Act, and now it's up to the House and the Senate to kind of get this going and get these cuts going. And you don't need Democrat votes, literally at all, not even in the House or the Senate, to get this passed. So it's really going to have to be an activist campaign of pressure on the Senate and of course the House, but more importantly, the Trump administration. They have to request this from the House of Representatives and the Senate. The Senate can't initiate this. This has to come from the executive branch. So, Carl, what do you think is going to happen here? Do you think we're going to be able to get these cuts in? Do we have enough people wanting to really do this? You're muted, bud. And Glenn, you're going to be up next after Carl, but Carl, go ahead.
No, it's hard to say. As long as the Republicans follow through, then we can get things done. But if they do, like, of course, like what's her name, Collins, Murkowski, and those knuckleheads.
Last time it was tried was in, I think, 2018, and Collins actually stopped it. So we've got to make sure that she doesn't try to do that again. But the difference is it was a 51-49 back then. Now it's 53, so there's plenty of extra votes there in case she does pull that. But Glenn, let me go to you on this one. So we've got these new tools. We've got this Rescission Act that has to come from the executive branch. They have to ask for it. And then, of course, now we have this executive order that was just passed today that makes these judges financially viable if they lose these injunctions. What are your thoughts?
if they follow the Constitution, then they're going to fold. I would have to say that they're going to go with it. So, they're going to get what they want if they like you say ask for it. They're not just going to hand it over to them. So if they do, and that's the way that I see it anyway.
Gotcha. Pam, you're gonna be up here next. So I think that these spending cuts are going to happen because Elon Musk's reaction of learning about this 1974 Rescission Act, he had no idea, because again, he's not in government, right? He had no idea. And from what I gather, he was jumping up and down, going fist pumping, like, yeah, we've got a way to do it. And then he said earlier this morning that he was going to have a meeting with President Trump and J.D. Vance and Scott Bessent and Ludnick and some of the more important folks that are involved in the financial aspects of this administration and kind of push them towards this. So we'll see what happens. Pam, what are your thoughts?
Well, I understand that when the government stopped the payments to U.S. aid, that there were some vendors that hadn't been paid. They provided services but hadn't been paid. And so from what I understand, the Supreme Court was saying, if somebody's already done the work, the government has to pay them. So that's what I understood that was about. So I think there has to be some sort of reasonableness with this. When I was in Minnesota, they were saying on the news, there's a state park, or it must have been a federal park, lost a couple of workers that just came and got slashed. And it's the parks aren't really that overstaffed with people. They can get rid of the chiefs, but there's not too many Indians. They need people to do the grunt work for these parks. And so it's sad. But I think we need to be reasonable. Don't just go in and just destroy everything.
I think that what they're doing is they're going through every single agency of the federal government and they're looking at the contracts, they're looking at the expenditures, and they are basically using AI and a calculation formula to say that this agency that's been given X should now be able to only get, Y, and therefore they should be able to cut Z. You know what I mean? To kind of balance out their books. And what does that mean? Well, it means that anyone that was hired in the last 4 years or even the last 2 years, which would be considered a probationary official, they are going to be let out first because, again, they haven't been there that long, number one. Number two, they don't have tenure. And number three, they were hired by the last administration, which means that more than likely they're going to be saboteurs. And so that's why President Trump is doing what he's doing. Are some of those people that even voted for him going to get caught up in it? Yes, they are. But I think in the end, it's going to be better because more of these people are going to be gone. So, Walter, we're going to go to you next here. So basically, you have a situation where you have the 1974 Budget Rescission Act, which allows them to basically take expenditures that are still outgoing but haven't been received to the recipients. They can claw that money back and end those contracts because that's what DOGE has been doing. It's been looking at these contracts and been terminating a lot of these contracts. You couple that with the new executive order that he signed today that basically puts any judge on notice that if they issue a temporary injunction and they're overturned, financially, they're going to be responsible for paying for us going to court to fight against it. So what are your thoughts?
Number one, I'm not sure if President Trump can do that because there are certain laws in judicial processes that determine when a party can demand its attorney fees be paid. So I don't know if you can do that by executive order or not. But I think I need to discuss something briefly just so you all can understand. In litigation, there's two phases. The first phase is called the interlocutory phase, which is where preliminary things are done. Sometimes parties will file motions trying to get out of the case during this interlocutory phase. the U.S. Supreme Court typically does not like to address anything that's been decided during the interlocutory phase of cases. So a lot of times the Supreme Court will deny writs and not even hear a case because it's a ruling that's made during the interlocutory phase. The second and final phase of the case is what's called the merits-based part of the case. Now, the merits-based is the actual issues that are sued upon and are typically decided at trial. Now, the Supreme
Okay.
Court, if they do take up cases, that's the phase of the case that they usually look at. So just always keep that in mind. Just because the Supreme Court doesn't take a case, it may not mean that they're not interested in it. It may be the opposite. It may be that they are interested in it, but they don't want to address the issues in that case in the pre-trial or interlocutory phase. So you should always keep that in mind when you're hearing about Supreme Court rulings.
So in other words, let the lower courts take a shot at it. Let's see what they come up with. Let's not undermine their ability to be able to legislate at their court level. But if we feel as though that lower court doesn't do the right thing, then we can take the case ex parte and take a look at it and rule on a case. That's basically what you're saying.
Basically, yes.
Gotcha. Okay. Oh, somebody else is joining us here. That's good.
And as far as the DOGE and that kind of
Jason.
thing, I think in the end, Trump and DOGE are going to win because of it. And you talked about it because of the lawsuit filed by who's his advisor?
Stephen Miller. Mhm.
Yeah, filed by Stephen Miller and the guy who used to be Trump's chief of the media. That was a very good move by Miller, and it's going to be hard for DC judges to go against that ruling that was very recently made in the proper manner.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
that was a very smart move by Miller.
Gotcha. Jason, appreciate you joining us. Did you end up getting a car?
I did, and you know, as you work that business, what a pain in the ass.
Yeah, I bet. You're there 4 or 5 hours.
I was there for over a couple. Yeah,
You should have called me. I would have negotiated the whole thing for you.
Yeah, I
Because
had a
obviously I
broker
know how to do it. I did it for
I know
years.
I had a broker do it, but
They did. Okay,
Anyway.
good. So I know you're just joining us, but here's I'm going to present the question to you. So just
Sure.
today, President Trump went on a flurry of executive orders, and one of the ones that he did was to rein in these rogue judges that are trying to fight against him. These
it's in 20. It's at least in 20 or 24 countries where they're doing these injunctions, right?
Well, I'm just talking about here in the United States. I'm talking about American judges on the
No,
left.
that's what I'm saying. 20 different states with the injunctions to try to release the money for the DOGE fraud.
Well,
that what you mean?
I mean, that's kind of part of it. But what I'm talking about today is he signed an executive order that basically states that if a judge issues a temporary injunction against what he's doing,
Right.
they will now be financially responsible for all of the court costs when they go to court and lose. That's what he signed today. He also stripped, by the way, the entire law firm Perkins Coie, which was part of
Yes.
Fusion GPS, which was
Sure.
part of Christopher Steele, Hillary Clinton, Mark
Right.
Elias. He stripped them all of their security clearances today. And
Nice.
they've even talked about indicting the entire law firm. So we'll see what happens with that. But with that, and then you have the 1974 Rescission Act, which basically allows these cuts if they haven't been paid out yet. In other words, if they're on their way or if there's contracts that are still pending, they can claw that money back and they can cut those funds because, again, what DOGE has been doing is been terminating these bad contracts. And so my question to you is, with that, and of course, with what we just saw today, do you think in the end that he's going to be able to get all of these cuts done through DOGE.
I believe he will. I mean, he's the executive branch. I thought he has the right to this, and legislative is a separate branch and doesn't have the right to do that.
Right, but see, the thing is with the rescission thing is that can't come from the Senate or the House. That has to be requested by the executive branch. So when Elon Musk first heard out about this, he's never even heard about it before. He was jumping up and down, waving his, chainsaw. Yeah, we got them. And then he had a meeting this morning with President Trump, with J.D. Vance, Scott Bessent, Harry Ludnick, all the different people involved in the financial aspect of this administration. And he's pushing them to issue a rescission request that can only come from the executive branch. It can't come from Congress. So we have to basically wait on the executive branch to say, yes, we want to cut all of this spending, and they have to request that to the Senate and the House, and then the House and the Senate would then vote on it. They have 45 days to vote on it. If they don't at that point, well, then all that money has to go to wherever, transgenders in Mozambique or whatever the hell it is. But at least now there's an opportunity. And again, you don't need Democrats at all. You can do 51 vote majority in the Senate, and you can do a House majority, which is small, in the House, and then get all those expenditures, get it to President Trump. He can sign it into law, and then they've clawed back about $500 billion, and you don't have to wait till 2026 either.
You just have to worry about Murkowski and Collins, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, yes and no. I mean, last time they tried it was in 2018, and it was a 51-49 type situation. And so when they lost Collins, they also, lost another Republican. I can't remember who it was. It might have been Mitt Romney. Anyway, long story short, they missed it by 1, and she was the deciding factor. Now we've got 53 votes. So even if we did lose her, we would still probably be able to get this done and get it passed.
Well, then I think it'll get done.
So we just can't lose more than 2 or 3 of these rhinos. And again, that's where I said last night, this is where Elon Musk has to come in and lie to them, even if he has to, and say, look, the information that we have on you, you've committed crimes, and we have the documents from USAID. So if you don't want to get prosecuted, then I suggest that you vote the way we need you to vote. Otherwise, good luck dealing with Pam Bondi and the Department of Justice. Even if they don't have crimes on them, just blackmail them anyway. That's what I say.
Well, they did it to our side, so why can't we do it to theirs?
Exactly. Lawfare works both ways. So
Obama did it to Roberts anyway, right?
Yep. So Carol, just real quick, I know you joined us a little bit late, but basically what happened was you have this 1974 Budget Rescission Act, which basically allows them to do a 51 vote majority. They don't need Democrat votes. They don't need a 60 vote threshold. All they need is a simple majority of at least 50 votes. Vance would be 51, and the House and the Senate together. But here's the kicker. It would have to be requested by the executive branch. So that means President Trump and his administration would have to request this money to be cut. So that's where right now, hopefully Elon Musk is working on pushing and pressuring the administration to ask for these types of requests. But then the other thing was today he signed an executive order, although Walter thinks that it might not be constitutional. I'm not sure. But basically it states that if they try to issue a temporary restraining order or an injunction against anything he's doing, that they will be responsible financially, the judge will be responsible financially for paying all of the legal fees when the Department of Justice has to go to court and defeat them, which they know that they will. So that might deter some of these judges from continuing to do this. So my question is, do you think in the end these DOGE cuts are going to get done?
Well, the whole that the judges would have to be responsible. I mean, I'm not a lawyer, obviously, but something doesn't seem like that is right. But whatever he needs to do it. I mean, the wasteful spending, it's just so pathetic. And I just think he needs to do whatever he's got to do. I don't even care. This enough's enough.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I thought, was Jeff there? I didn't see Jeff there. It says that he was there, but I'm not sure if I see him. But okay, so let's talk about this real quick. So I don't know if you saw this really strong worded message to Hamas by President Trump. Kind of took me by surprise because I've never seen him use the kind of language that he did, but he actually put Shalom Hamas, which I think is hysterical because they obviously know what that means. It means hello and goodbye in Hebrew, right? So he writes Shalom Hamas, which means hello and goodbye. You can choose. Release all of the hostages now, not later, and immediately return all of the dead bodies of the people that you murdered, or it's over for you. Only sick and twisted people keep bodies, and you are sick and twisted. I am sending Israel everything it needs to finish the job. Not a single Hamas member will be safe if you don't do as I say. I have just met with your former hostages whose lives you have destroyed. This is your last warning for the leadership. Now is the time to leave Gaza while you still have a chance. Also, to the people of Gaza, a beautiful future will await you, but not if you hold hostages. If you do, you are dead. Make a smart decision. Release the hostages now, or there will be hell to pay later. President Donald J. Trump. What's interesting about this, and we'll start with you, Carol, and go back the other direction, is he didn't even put a time frame on this. He didn't say do it in 5 days, 24 hours, 10 days. He just left it open-ended. So my question is, what do you think is going to happen next?
I have no idea what's going to happen next, but I think that he's going to continue to be a friend to Israel. And if anybody is going to, I don't know, put it into the war, I mean, Israel's always going to have to, they're always going to be at war in some form of fashion. I mean, people are always going to hate them and they're always going to be, whatever. But I mean, Trump is going to, I don't know. I think it's going to be like he's going to do what he has to do. It may get really ugly though, but I mean, Hamas needs to be ran out of Gaza. I'm sorry. And all the dirty people, and I don't know where they're going to go, but also, Turkey was saying they wasn't going to take anybody. And
No,
now
but
they
Egypt
changed their
has.
tune. So, it's going to be interesting to watch the Middle East. And we all know all roads lead to Jerusalem.
Yeah, and Egypt was one of those countries that said, absolutely not, we're not taking them. And they have now come out and said that they are working on, I think, either migrant facilities or something for the people in Gaza. And so they actually are now, the government, going to take the majority of these people will be moved over to Egypt. But Jason, pretty strongly worded message, don't mess with me in the United States and release these people. So what are your
I saw
thoughts?
it last night. It was awesome. That was great.
What do you think is going to happen? Do you think we're going to put boots on the ground, or you think he's just going to back up Israel?
No. He's just going to give Israel everything they need. All the weapons that Biden didn't give him to finish the job and do what they need to do. They're going to take them out. Sometime I think Israel's going to have to say, I know, Netanyahu is in a tough spot. And because, you want to bring the hostages home, but then who knows if they're still alive?
Right.
They may not be alive, and they're playing games. And so you have to make a decision, or they're going to be left to die anyway if you don't do anything. And if you take him out, he's going to be blamed for killing the hostages. Am I right? I mean, does that sound correct?
More than likely, I think that's what they would probably do, because that's what they always do, right? Walter, did you just click off? I think he might have. I'm not sure if he's there or not. I was going to go to him next, but I can come back to him. So Pam and Jeff, so I'll ask you, pretty strongly worded, message here without even a timeline to say, when you have to give back the hostages. So what are your thoughts here? Do you think he's going to take military action, or is he just going to work in a supportive role?
Well, this is all new to me. I just kind of came in the room, and
Yeah.
so I hadn't seen the report, but I think that timeline kind of works both ways. Trump could just blow him up tonight and say, "Oh, well, I didn't tell you when. I just decided to do it now." So what is he going to do? I think
Well,
Isabel had it right. I think we'll give Israel what they need.
yeah, I mean, Trump put out a pretty strong, I've never seen anything like this. He put Shalom Hamas, which in the Jewish faith basically means hello and goodbye. And he says that. So he says, Shalom Hamas means hello and goodbye. You can choose. Release all the hostages now, not later, and immediately return all of the dead bodies of the people that you murdered, or it's over for you. Only sick and twisted people keep bodies, and you are all sick and twisted. I am sending Israel everything it needs to finish the job. Not a single Hamas member will be safe if you don't do as I say. I have just met with your former hostages whose lives you have destroyed. This is your last warning for the leadership. Now is the time to leave Gaza while you still have a chance. Also, to the people of Gaza, a beautiful future awaits, but not if you hold hostages. If you do, you are all dead. Make a smart decision. Release the hostages now, or there will be hell to pay later. President Donald J. Trump. Wow. I mean, Reagan never even did that. Bush never did. No president that I can think of in my memory has ever said anything like that publicly to a terrorist group. Only President Trump, and I think he did it, if I'm not mistaken, to ISIS and some of their leaders in his first term as well, and we saw what happened with them. So pretty crazy stuff. Liam left. Okay, so Liam's there. I don't see Liam. Is he there? I don't see him on camera. Is he there or not?
No.
He's not there. Okay, all right, no problem. We'll go
video.
back. So Glenn, what? You're waving? Carol? What?
She's muted.
He was on for a minute. Liam was on for just a second.
Oh, he was.
He
Okay.
waved and then got back.
Came on and waved.
Oh, he came on and waved. All right, that's okay. No problem. No problem. So, who was not? Glenn. So Glenn was up next on this one. So, what do you think he's going to do? Do you think he's just going to bomb them again, or is he just going to act as a supporting role for Israel and IDF to kind of take care of the job?
Well, it sounds like he's going to be a supporting role for Israel. Thank God. We need somebody with some kahunas that will do it. And he did point out a timeline for it. Now means now.
True. You're right.
Release them now. I'm not, my watch is ticking. I want now, my dad, he would say something, similar to that, I want it done right now. That means we're not waiting to, so.
Yeah. So yeah, you're right. There is kind of a timeline there. I think he would have been, I guess, better off saying that you have, 24 hours or 48 hours or whatever it might be, because I think then there'd be action. Because right now, as far as I can tell, and Carl, you're going to be up next year, but as far as I can tell, there hasn't been any movement yet by Hamas releasing these hostages. So they are now challenging President Trump, and that's probably not a good position for them to be in if they want to live any longer.
There may not be anyone still alive. This is third year into it.
That could be it too. Maybe there's no one even as a spokesperson for the group, but he did say that they were negotiating directly with Hamas. He did say that. And I think Marco Rubio has been talking to their, counterpart or whatever. But Carl, what are your thoughts here? Pretty strongly worded, threat to say, give us back these hostages or else. What do you think?
He's probably telling Hamas, fuck around and find out.
That's about it, isn't it? That is about it. So, Gail, you're up next on this one. Are we going to have boots on the ground? Gosh, I hope not. We don't need to be in any kind of other quagmire, especially not in the Middle East or anything like that. And my other question, and I was kind of thinking, well, that was such a strongly worded threat that I was worried about Iran reacting to that. in any kind of a negative way, but I think that they're afraid of President Trump as well. Gail, what are your thoughts?
Well, he did meet with Netanyahu, and I think they planned, what to do should they not cooperate. And he's giving the tools to Israel to take them out. So I don't think our boots will be on the ground. I don't think
Okay.
so. So
I hope not, because we
No.
don't need that.
no.
That would be an absolute disaster if we did something like that. I mean,
Killed most of those poor people that
yeah,
bodies there. Yeah.
yeah, I would really hope not. So, so President Trump now has said that next week they're giving him a report next week sometimes, where his exact words, on the people in the first assassination attempt that tried to kill him. This was the one in Butler, PA, and all that. So you've all kind of heard where I think it came from and originated from, but I don't want to bias that. I want to kind of hear from all of you, and we'll start back with Gail, and we'll move back the other direction again. So Gail, what do you think we're going to find out from these documents?
Well, I kind of agree with you that Jill Biden probably played a big role in that. I think that group, that cabal that's been running that White House while Joe is sleeping, is responsible for it. And the FBI too. I wouldn't trust the FBI at all, at least the older, the ones that were under Biden.
Yeah.
I would
Well,
not.
most of those guys are all gone because, again, they offered them, buyouts and things like that. There's still some, but not many. And I think a lot of those guys hopefully are going to be under, indictment, we would hope. I mean, everyone wants the indictments to happen right away, but we have to realize Cash has only been there, less than 10 days. And so it's going to take some time. He's already kind of signaled to James Comey that he's going after James Comey already, and he did that within the first couple of days. So, myself included, we all have to be kind of patient to allow this to kind of open up a little bit more. But here's the thing, if we don't see solid, prosecutions by, let's say, June or July, then I'm going to be pretty pissed off, and I'll myself try to put pressure campaigns online, whatever we can do. But I have a feeling we are going to see some. I think we're going to see some action, because right now they're going through, and I think the first couple of weeks they're going through all the different things that they promised to release. I think they're going to do that first, and then when they have a break, then I think they're going to look at prosecutions and things like that. At least I hope, because if they don't do it, then just cutting security clearances is not going to be a good enough, deterrent for future bad behavior. So we'll have to see what happens there. Carl, what are your thoughts here on all of this? What are your thoughts on the first assassination attempt? Who do you think was behind it?
Well, you've been saying, okay.
You're on.
I remember you saying something about Jill Biden may be the
Mastermind.
the head of the serpent.
Mm-hmm. That's what you're thinking as well?
It wouldn't surprise me.
Okay.
We'll have to look into that more.
Gotcha. Okay. All right, good.
Hopefully
Good.
we can get that done.
Okay.
Find out for sure what went on.
So Glenn, you're going to be next, but Walter, I wanted to go by just real quick because you disappeared for a bit, and I was coming up to you next. So I don't know if you know this, but President Trump issued a pretty stern warning to Hamas. I don't probably have to read the whole thing, but he basically said, "Shalom Hamas," meaning hello and goodbye, you can choose. Release all the hostages now, not later, and immediately return all the dead bodies of the people you murdered, or it's over for you. And then he basically says, if you hold hostages, you will all be dead. Make a smart decision. Release the hostages now, or there will be hell to pay later. President Trump. What are your thoughts here? What do you think he's planning on doing?
Well, I think he's clearly giving them an opportunity to do the right thing and release the hostages based on what he's already done with the, I think it's a Hamas leader in Somalia and another terrorist. I forgot where they were, but I mean, he has a pretty solid track record of once he gives you a warning, and if you don't comply, he's going to use the full force of the U.S. military to get what he wants. So I think it's a good move, and I think that they're going to be releasing the hostages soon.
Gotcha. So you think actually could be boots on the ground, American boots on the ground, or do you think he's just going to prop up the IDF and give them everything they need to wipe them out?
No, I think that he probably has a designated unit of special forces over in that area, training, getting ready to kick some doors in if they need to.
Okay. All right. Gotcha. Taz, same thing to you. I know that you were here and then you left and you came back. So President Trump, basically warned Hamas and said, if you don't release all the rest of the hostages, and he didn't even give them a time frame. He didn't say 24 hours, 48 hours, 5 days, 10 days. He just said, if you don't do it immediately, you are all dead and we are going to wipe you out, basically, is what he said. So what are your thoughts here? Is this something where America's going to get into another quagmire with boots on the ground, or is he just going to support the IDF and give them everything they need to take out Hamas?
Yeah, I think he'll probably work with Netanyahu and get everything sorted out. But I tell you what, Hamas need to get rid of all the mobile phones and pages. Yeah, there, guys.
Okay. Yeah, I was just reading what Carol has a story afterwards or something, but okay. And then Pam, I want to go back to you from the other question that we were discussing, which was the assassination attempt. Next week, President Trump is going to be briefed on a report as to who may have been responsible for trying to kill him in Butler, Pennsylvania. I think we know my thoughts on it and who I think it leads to, but what about you and Jeff? What are your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts are, I know BlackRock has something to do with it because both the assassins had been in BlackRock commercials. So there's some sort of a globalist connection to this. So, and I don't trust any reports because I don't know if we ever get the truth ever, but what do you think?
Yeah, if they do find someone, they should immediately be hung for treason, and I'll pull the lever. Maybe they could have a lottery and pay off the debt with see who gets to pull the lever.
Yeah, raise enough money, who gets to do it. I like that. That's actually a pretty good idea. Walter, we'll ask you on this one, and then Jason on this one as well, because I want to make sure that we get everybody involved here. But what are your thoughts? Who do you think we're going to find out was responsible for the Butler attempt?
I think Jill was involved. I also think, and you and I have discussed this previously, I also think the FBI has a list of all of these people who are on the edge of doing something violent for political purposes, because when you see kids like that and the school shooters, they almost always have been alerted to the FBI by a third party saying, this person's got some issues, maybe you need to talk to them. They know who these people are. I'm sure they have a list of them, and they quote, activate them when they need something done. They push that button in the person that they know psychologically is going to force them over that edge. So long story short, I think Jill's involved. I think the FBI is heavily involved.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, unfortunately, the Secret Service is also involved.
Yeah, sadly, I think you're absolutely correct. I think all of those people are probably involved. And who knows, maybe it all came down from Obama, too. We don't really know. But Jason, what are your thoughts here? What do you think we're going to find out? President Trump is going to be briefed next week.
My thoughts are, I agree with you, and I agree with everything Walter just said. Absolutely. And remember, remember you put that show on, that show up after it happened a little while, where they pulled that guy over and they grilled him pretty good.
Yes.
So obviously there was other people involved. There was another person involved, so or a couple people involved. And so, yeah. And then sure, Jill, why not? Because she was really, she was into elder abuse and willing to hold on to power so much longer because she wanted it so much more so she could go to all the parties and everything else that she gets to do, and to make her husband fall off, going up to Air Force One and off stages, making an ass out of her own husband. So sure, why not?
Yeah, that's not love.
No.
That's definitely not love. No question about it. So, I think we're all correct in some respects. I think the Secret Service was absolutely involved. I think the FBI was absolutely involved. It's possible the CIA was involved. It's possible the Butler Police Department themselves were involved. And, and I think the executive branch in and of itself was probably involved as well, mainly because they would know where the locations are. They would know what security detail was going to be allocated to what location. And like I said from the very, very, very beginning, right after it happened, I said, it doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is one thing. They let them take the shot. That's it. It doesn't matter. Other than that, they let them take the shot, which means that because they did that, that kid was going to die no matter what that day. And if he would have hit, he would have been dead. Thank God he didn't hit him, just his ear, and he was dead anyway, because he would have been able to talk and he would have been able to say, I've been set up as a patsy by X, Y, and Z. And even a private investigator has come out and said to the New York Post, I talked about it yesterday, I think, or the day before, and they said that they did geolocationing from cell phone towers and things like that, and they were able to map this and realize that it wasn't just Pennsylvania, but there were people in Connecticut and there were people in New York State and in the area, and they kind of like showed like a whole grid of all these different people and cell phones. And remember, body's gone, no autopsy, no nothing, burned the body, right? And then the blood wasn't scattered all over the place like it should have been. And again, they cleaned the house. The parents lawyered up immediately. I think they have something to do with it. They probably know a little bit more about it as well. So I don't know. Hopefully we'll get to the bottom of it. Like I said the other day, I would have wanted to know day one. Day one. Forget JFK, forget Martin Luther King, forget Epstein. Who tried to kill me on day one? That's what I would have wanted. And I don't know why all these other people are more important than the President of the United States and finding out exactly who took this, this shot at him and what they were doing. So I don't know. Hopefully we'll find out a little bit more in the near future. Anyway, those are all my thoughts for this evening. Can't wait to hear all of yours. Folks, please stay with me because I have some interesting things to talk to you all about as well. Go ahead, Marlene.